Welcome. Welcome, everybody. We are live here, UFC Winnipeg, Moneyline MMA, bringing our picks for our card that will be at the Canada Life Center this Saturday, starting at 4 p.m. Central Time. And main card will be similar timing to last weekend's card. Main card somewhere around 7 or 8 Central Time. This card headlined by two welterweights, one longly tenured and one kind of on the up and coming. Burns versus Malott. Some other good fights on this card that we'll be discussing tonight. Before I get too far into tonight's picks, though, let's quickly recap. Especially deserving of a recap is UFC 327. What a card. In terms of strict picks, disappointed to say that Jose and I both had Prochaska, and he had the fight in his hands. He let it go. Carlos Alberg, I thought it was Achilles, because you could almost watch in the replay like a rubber band effect, where like one side let go of the rubber band and it just smashed into his heel. But they're saying knee, so maybe it wasn't that. Maybe it was a different knee ligament. Either way, he's going to be out for some time, but he did get the finish against Jiri as he kind of let up, or at least claims to have let up. In any case, we'll see what's coming for the future of light heavyweight, since the now champ is going to be out for quite some time. Will the UFC force him to vacate? Will they do an interim? And if you do an interim, who? Very interesting. I feel like Paulo Costa, though. I don't know. Paulo Costa looked pretty good. Speaking of the light heavyweight division, Paulo Costa moving up and giving Azamat Murzakanov his first career professional MMA loss, and Paulo Costa looked amazing. Not much else to say there. Paulo Costa's on the up and coming. I mean, obviously that was a jump up to light heavyweight for him, so maybe to talk belt shot is a little too early, but at the same time, who knows? Paulo Costa looks very interesting there. Josh Hokett and Curtis Blades. I mean, geez. If you watch the card, I don't need to say much for you to understand how crazy that was. If you didn't watch, you need to. Hokett versus Blades was one of the best. Jose and I talked about it. It's a top 3 or 4 heavyweight fight of all time, for sure. What a crazy fight. Hokett eventually getting the decision win. That was brutal. Most boring fight of the night by far goes to Reyes Walker. Don't even want to talk about it any more than that. Cub Swanson gets Nate Landwehr and gets him easy. Cub Swanson retiring with an easy. I hate to say that it's easy, but it looked easy. Cub Swanson looked so much faster, and Nate Landwehr couldn't hang, and it was easy. First round knockout. Dang. I don't think. Well, I mean, I can keep going down the list because we had a lot of picks on this card. Pico getting the best of Pitbull. Pitbull come out strong, and then died off. Pitbull not looking good there in the second and third rounds. Kevin Holland beating Randy Brown. Almost got him in a submission a couple of times. Mateusz Gamrot out wrestles Ribovics for a win. Some good fights on this card, honestly. Last note I'll make here is Chuck Buffalo. Jose was really on the dot with his handicap of that fight. He picked Radke, although only with his 2-weight. Radke pretty much dismantled Prado. It was insignificant from Prado's perspective, and Radke using some wrestling there. So, love to see Chuck Buffalo back in the win column. Let's move on to picks for UFC Winnipeg. And just for anyone who's new, Jose and I make picks individually. We pick 5 fights of the scheduled card for UFC Winnipeg. And of those 5 fights, we weigh them in order of confidence. 5 is the most, 1 is the least confident. It's a weight system, so 5 is the heaviest. Therefore, we just confer before the show to know what order we're going to go in. And that's because we're going to go with our locks of the week. Our 5 weights first. My 5 weight. Backing up last week. Last week, taking Murzakanov, that was tough. That was the first 5-weight loss in a while for me. I'm bouncing back, and we're taking Mike Malott to beat Gilbert Burns. I hate to say this because Gilbert Burns has been one of my favorites. I've liked Gilbert Burns, but since his fight with Khamzat, I've loved Gilbert Burns. That was amazing. But he's just struggling, man. 2-4 in his last 6. I mean, you can loop in the Khamzat fight. That's 5. That's 2-5 in his last 7. Not looking great. Gilbert Burns is a great fighter, but he's got a negative striking differential, and he doesn't supplement that with like deadly enough wrestling. And he does land over 2 takedowns per 3-round fight, which you would think would bode in his favor. But even against someone like Jack Maddalena, Della Maddalena, he landed 7 takedowns, and then 5 minutes of control time, his opponents get back up. That's the problem. He just doesn't do a great enough job of, the Russians. They can get you down and they'll get on your back and you're done for. And Gilbert Burns is not quite so good at that. Mike Malott is the kind of guy I'm not worried about getting submitted. Mike Malott's got a great wrestling/ground game of his own, sporting 1.8 takedowns every 3 rounds. I don't think this is just a fight where Gilbert Burns can utilize his wrestling and getting takedowns to earn points for a decision. I don't see that happening. I think we all wanted to think Mike Malott was the next thing, and then he lost to Neil Magny, got finished, and we all had to be like, okay, let's pump the brakes a little bit. But the UFC pulled the reins back, gave him Trevin Giles, gave him Chuck Buffalo, rip. That Chuck Buffalo lost that fight, gave him Kevin Holland, and Kevin Holland's pretty good, and maybe a little inconsistent, but in any case, I'll stop babbling. I really do think Malott is in a good position to win this fight, though, and I'll be honest, I made this pick without looking at the odds, and now I'm looking and seeing that Mike Malott's minus 440, Gilbert Burns plus 310. I might have to say it's a little disrespectful to our boy Gilbert Burns, but it's hard to be surprised when he's coming off 4 straight losses. Just keep in mind, though, those are great fighters he's losing to. I'm not discounting Gilbert Burns. I'm not putting a dime on Mike Malott in this fight, but I do think he wins. What do you think, Jose?
Yeah, Nick, I agree with you. I do think it's big disrespect on Gilbert Burns, especially when you look at the losses. Yeah, like you mentioned, he once fought for the world title against Kamaru Usman, lost to him, bounces back with a win, fights Khamzat, who's the current middleweight champ, and then he wins 2 in a row, including a win over veterans like Neil Magny and Jorge Masvidal. And then he's fighting nothing but former champs and prospects like Bilal Muhammad, Jack Della Maddalena, Sean Brady, and Michael Morales. All scary dudes, all bigger than him too. Like, he's a completely undersized guy for welterweight, and he still seems to hold his own most of the time. And he carries good power for how small and stocky he is. The only thing that worries me about Gilbert Burns is his age. He's 39 years old now. But you know what? I think the level of competition that he's faced before is a lot tougher than Mike Malott. So that's why I'm going to go with Gilbert Burns on this. And he is my 4-weight because of that. I do think the competition against Mike Malott is a slight tier down compared to all the other dudes he's fought against. Mike Malott, he's not bad at all, but I mean, he got TKO'd and gave up against Neil Magny a couple of years ago. And though he's gone on a 2-fight winning streak and has some impressive wins over like Charlie Radke and Kevin Holland, I still think, I thought Mike Malott was actually a lot younger too. He's only 5 years younger than Gilbert Burns. I thought he was like in his late 20s to early 30s, but he's kind of up there too. I haven't really seen too much that impresses me about Mike Malott. And then the fact that he's shown that he does tend to give up, and we know Gilbert Burns, if you don't put him out, he's going to go to war with you, as he's proven multiple times, like especially against Khamzat. Giving Khamzat a tough fight for sure. So that being said, this one, I'm going to actually side with the underdog on it. I still think he has some left in him, especially after seeing fighters like Cub Swanson last weekend do what he did at his age at 42. I think Gilbert Burns still has it in him, especially, he has a lot more experience too compared to Mike Malott. He's 22-9, Mike Malott being 13-2. Yeah, I like Gilbert Burns. Again, Gilbert Burns for being the shorter guy. He only has a 2-inch reach disadvantage, but other than that, both guys, I think on the feet, it's gonna be a war for sure. This one, both guys land high volume of strikes, but also absorb a lot. Gilbert Burns lands 3.15 significant strikes per minute. Mike Malott lands 3.93, but both also absorb a similar rate. Gilbert Burns with 3.64 and Mike Malott 3.06. So both guys like to throw, and both guys definitely eat up a lot as well. So I think this one, if they're gonna stand clang and bang, I will give it to Gilbert Burns. He has a good opportunity. He has a good eye for finding someone's chin. The only one that gave him the most problems, which Mike Malott wouldn't do, it was obviously Michael Morales, but Michael Morales just had a huge reach advantage and carries a lot of power. and he's probably going to fight for the belt somewhat soon too. So that's the only, if someone has an outrageous long reach over Gilbert Burns, like the way Michael Morales did, then I think that's the only one I'm worried about Gilbert Burns, and especially if it's a good fighter like Michael Morales, but not Mike Malott. And especially when it comes to the grappling as well, everyone fears doesn't like to stay on the ground too much with Gilbert Burns, including Khamzat Chimaev. So I think if this fight goes to the ground, it's in favor of Gilbert Burns as well. So that being said, I have Gilbert Burns. I feel good on him. I like him as the underdog. He is my 4-weight.
Interesting, man. I like it. So we have a pretty heavyweight disagreement here. My 5-weight disagrees with Jose's 4-weight, and not only that, but the odds themselves, man. And I'll give you credit. I do agree that Burns could potentially just outwork Malott to the point where Malott gives up, and that's something that's hard to deny, just in the fact that that's literally what happened against another seasoned veteran in this division like Magny, so, and like Burns. So, okay, I have to concede that point. But in the end, I still think Malott, like, regardless of age, we're talking about Burns having 31 professional fights. Malott is at 16. So, like, even though they're only 5 years apart, Malott's, like, career durability is at a better point no matter what. So, either way, I like Malott. Jose likes Gilbert Burns.
So, and that being said, that brings us over to my 5-weight. I'm hoping to get on a roll with this. I won my first 5-weight in a while last week with Vicente Luque getting that submission win, and I called it too. He's gonna submit Gastelum, and he did it.
He did.
So this one, we'll see if you agree with me. But this, I think I actually know your answer already. But it's my 5-weight being Charles Jourdain. This is the bantamweight bout. It's mid card. It's actually the co-main event, I should say. And right now, Charles Jourdain on FanDuel, he is actually the betting favorite at -166, and Kyler Phillips is the betting underdog at +130. For this one, yeah, I'm going with Charles Jourdain. Dude, for how old he is, he's extremely experienced. He's only they're both guys are actually the same age. They're both 30, but somewhat similar experiences. Charles Jourdain actually has a far more experience, I would say, especially in the UFC. He's already faced numerous names like Gene Silva, Sean Woodson, Ricardo Ramos, Chrome Gracie, Shane Burgos, who's no longer in the UFC but always threw down. And yeah, he's been doing his thing, and he's been up and down. But right now, lately, he's caught 2 wins in a row over Victor Henry and Davey Grant. I like Charles Jourdain. Like, you just never know what you're gonna get with him. He barely gets finished out of his 8 losses. He's only been knocked out once, and he's only been submitted once. And again, never say never. And Kyler Phillips, I think, is also, he's never been finished actually himself. So this fight, I would want to say, is going to probably go the distance, in my opinion. I think at the end of the day, it's going to be Charles Jourdain that's going to win this by strikes. Both guys land a high volume of strikes. Kyle Phillips lands 5.04 significant strikes, while Charles Jourdain lands 5.48. Both kind of similar to the last fight. Both guys also eat up a lot of shots as well. Charles Jourdain slightly more with 4.25 significant strikes absorbed versus Kyler Phillips with 3.83. And when it comes to the grappling, I would say Charles Jourdain doesn't have the best grappling, but it's enough, I think, to survive. He's definitely more of a stand-up guy. I would say the grappling department I would give to Kyler Phillips. And Kyler Phillips, out of his 12 wins, does have 2 by submission, but he hasn't had a submission since Marcelo Rojo in 2022. So it's been kind of a minute, but it's always there. That being said, I think Charles Jourdain should get this win. He also has a reach disadvantage, which I do not like. But I like Charles Jourdain on this. I think this is a fight that he should win. I like who he's faced more over who Kyler Phillips has faced. Kyler Phillips is coming off 2 losses in a row, and he lost unanimously to Vinicius Oliveira and Rob Font. And Rob Font too, he's kind of up there as well himself. He's 38, so and he's been kind of like more on the losing end as of lately, just being Kyler Phillips and Gene Matsumoto. So this one, I like Charles Jourdain. Both dudes are young. Both dudes still have a lot in it, but I think it's going to be a war. I think it's going to be Charles Jourdain by unanimous decision in this one. Nick, what are your thoughts on this?
Wow, man. Funny enough, we're reversing disagreements 5 and 4 weights. As I disagree with you also at my 4-weight level, I'm taking Kyler Phillips. Before I continue, I'll make note that Kyler Phillips is plus 130, Charles Jourdain minus 166. The betting public agrees with Jose on this pick. Little surprising to me. I thought Kyler Phillips was going to get a little bit more hype in the sense that, sure, he's coming off 2 straight losses, and Charles Jourdain's coming off 2 wins. But I thought those 2 losses weren't that, like, honestly, that hugely significant. Not to, I mean, every loss matters and has things to learn from. But yeah, Rob Font's getting older, but this was also in 2024 because Kyler Phillips has not fought a whole lot recently. So this is still pretty young, like pretty mid career, not end career Rob Font. Vinicius Oliveira's a dog. I've always had a lot of respect for Vinicius Oliveira, although he's kind of up and down himself, most recently losing to Mario Batista. But in any case, I think Kyler Phillips just has more pop here. I think he's got way more potential to get a finish if there was a finish to happen. Now, I can see why you disagree with that, as Charles Jourdain's got 8 KOs, Kyler Phillips got 5. But another thing I like is even to play into Jose's point, if this does end in decision, Charles Jourdain's 2-6 career in decision fights. So I much rather take Kyler Phillips on that regard. He's got a lot more. He's at least 5 decision wins and 4 losses that way. So yeah, Kyler Phillips also never been finished, but that can happen at any time. Jourdain's got a lot of power, but I just don't see, Jourdain's like 8-7 in the UFC. Kyler Phillips is still at least 6-3 in the UFC. I understand he's coming off 2 losses, but I'm not ready to give up on him, especially at that point where you can get him at plus 130. So yeah, to me that's really good value. I'd way bet that before I bet Mike Malott.
So this is another one in a row. We both do not agree on, and it looks like you're going for the underdog in this one. Kind of like I went for the underdog on the other one. So we both feel pretty good about underdogs. The co-main event, main event underdogs. So
Right.
uh,
And
so
we've got
yeah,
underdogs of the week, just not the ones we agree on.
right, yeah. So that's funny actually how that works out. So yeah, another one that we do direct crossfire with, but yeah, we'll see who gets to maintain if I continue my streak or if you bounce back on your 5-weight streak on this one.
Yeah, I was gonna say so far the tides have been back in your favor for those disagreements because yeah, you had Hokett. That was the big one. I really didn't think Hokett was gonna win, and he certainly handled Blades, and of course Costa too. You picked Costa, and my 5-weight was Azamat, so I got to bounce back on those head-to-heads. We'll see this Saturday, and we'll see if we have any more too. We're not done yet. We'll jump down to then my 3-weight. I'm going to cover the only women's fight on the main card. Something I tend to stay away from in general. Women's MMA can be tough. Maybe once you get to the highest level, it's a little more predictable. But a lot of times with women's MMA, you just don't know. And this can be one of those situations, man. But both of these fighters are very high level, I will say. Not much needs to be said. Jasuda Vicious is coming off of a loss, but before that, a 5-fight win streak with multiple finishes along the way, all by submission. Karine Silva as well, coming off a loss, but recently has dominated. Only 2 UFC losses in like 8 fights, I believe. She's 6-2 in the UFC, if I'm not mistaken. So, doing a great job. Both of these ladies are, but I'm going to be taking Jasuda Vicious to get the job done. I like her slightly bigger frame. I like the fact that she is a little bit better striking wise. Karine Silva is looking at a negative .6 striking differential. Not a huge fan. Jasuda Vicious is right along the line even there. And I like that aspect of it a lot. Of course, we could look at the wrestling and ground game aspect of it. Sure, Jasuda Vicious has her own threat. On the ground, 4 submission wins, never been submitted herself. Karine Silva, admittedly, is going to be better on the ground at grappling. I'm just not sure she gets the finish at all. But in any case, last thing I like about this fight is just that this is home. This is one thing I haven't mentioned yet, and I think would really help me in the Mike Malott fight. But also, theoretically, Jose for the Jourdain fight, in that we're talking about this being in Winnipeg, as I've mentioned. And I don't know how. There's been a lot of cards where the home fighters per se didn't really do that well, but I think in general, fighters at home do pretty well behind their home crowd. So I will say for those Canadians that we're picking here, they have a little bit extra motivation. You don't get to fight for your homeland very much, and if you're a proud Canadian, I think you really do what you can. I think Jasutovic gets it done. What do you think, Jose?
Yeah, Nick, for this one, we're going to actually have a direct, first time right now of the night, we're going to have a direct agreement, actually, to the T, where my three-way is also Jasmine. And she, for the same reasons you said, I think even though she's significantly older, she is 37. That's the only thing that kind of worries me. But like I said, there's fighters like Cub Swanson still getting it done. So can she. And she's, there's been female fighters that have been up there that have been still catching W's. Karine Silva, she's been on a win-loss as of lately, and she lost unanimously to Macy Barber late last year. And while Jasmine, she lost to Mino Ferrioso. So both tough losses, like nothing wrong with it. Extremely, tough competition that they've gone against. But before that, Jasmine has been on a 5-fight winning streak, and I think the Karine Silva fight is nothing much different of level of competition that she's faced before. I don't really know if Karine really offers much of anything new to her. Like, I think Macy Barber and Mino Ferrioso are both almost like a tier up where both Jasmine and Karine Silva are at. So I think this is a fight that she should win again. I think for her bet status, I think her experience should help a lot. Both have a lot of experience, to be honest. So, and just both high-level strikers, especially Jasmine. She lands 3.7 significant strikes per minute, but she also absorbs 3.71. So, I think this fight, someone is going to be posed to be probably put out. And both are strong grapplers as well. Jasmine has better defense, though, better takedown defense, but Karine Silva, I think, just probably feels comfortable getting taken down because of her jiu-jitsu. She has pretty good jiu-jitsu. So this one, it is a tough one. It is a tough one, especially with the female MMA. But I like Jasmine a lot for this one, and it's kind of nice knowing that she's also viewed as a top favorite. So as a betting favorite, I should say. So that being said, I'm not picking her solely because of that, but I just truly think that her vet experience is going to play a big role. And that Mino Ferrioso she's top of the food chain in there. And I would even say she's better than Macy Barber. So being knocked out to her is, understandably so. So that being said, I agree with you a lot for the same reasons you do. I have Jasmine as my 3-weight as well.
Man, I wouldn't personally be betting on this one either. That's a steep price to pay for a girl we do agree on. So it's tough because I want to say it's the lock of the week, right? In the sense that it's going to be the highest amount of points we both agree on. But yeah, minus 340 for any woman in MMA is going to be tough to really pay up for. So I'd avoid that if it was me personally, but it sounds like we agree at least. Jasmine should get the job done, I guess, if you want to do a risky parlay or something. But that's also to your own discretion. Only bet what you can. Do not be betting any more than that. So with that, let's go to Jose, I think, for your 2-weight then.
So for my 2-weight, this is the lightweight bout. This is the lightweight bout between Thiago Moises and Gage Young. And for this one, Thiago Moises, he is the betting underdog at plus 102, while Young is the betting favorite at minus 130 on FanDuel. This one, not too sure why Thiago Moises is an underdog, but both these guys are on win-losses, and to be honest, they have almost similar records in terms of like level of competition in the UFC. Thiago Moises definitely has far more UFC experience than Gage Young, so that plays part to why I want to go with him as being the favorite in this one. My favorite in this one to pick. He's obviously the underdog, but he's only 31 years old, and he hasn't, besides getting knocked out by Jared Gordon, other than that, he's just looked pretty average. And I haven't seen too much of Gage Young yet, especially because he's only been in the UFC for He's been in the UFC actually for a couple, just last year, really. He was on Dana White's Contender Series at one point, but yeah, he was just win-loss last year, but went to decision. Thiago Moises, he's been pretty active. He's also been win-loss last year, but he's a fairly active fighter. On average, fights twice a year. I like that a lot. And, he back in the day fought Islam Makhachev as well. He got submitted, but he went all the way to the fourth round. He was a main event. He went all the way to the fourth round against Islam. So that I think that's just like he beat Alexander Hernandez and Bobby Green and Michael Johnson, 3 good fights in a row. So he had a good run earlier in his UFC career, and I still think he has some left in the tank. Even though he got knocked out by Jared Gordon, it's almost like as time goes on, he didn't excel and become the fighter that he probably should have been. He got knocked out by Benoit Saint Denis, so he's losing to some. He's historically lost to really good fighters, and Jared Gordon is the one guy that knocked him out that isn't really that good of a fighter. I haven't seen too much of Gage Young yet. It's not like last week when I chose Josh Hokett over Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades, as we mentioned, he has a lot of experience, but Josh Hokett, I know what we've seen. Like he's a bull. He's gonna come in and do exactly what I said, and he did that. He's gonna throw a high volume of punches. Curtis Blades did return fire, but I at least saw Josh Hokett before the UFC and what he's done. I haven't seen, unfortunately, much of Gage Young, but from what I've seen, he has a similar trajectory to Moises in terms of win-loss, and out of his 10 wins, he does have 6 by KO, that's TKO, and he has a high finish rate, probably higher than Thiago Moises. Thiago Moises is more of a submission grappler, so this one really is almost a coin flip for me, a coin toss, I would say. So that's why I feel so low confidence in this. I haven't seen much of Gage Young, so not a lot of confidence in this. But I'm going to ride with the UFC vet Thiago Moises. Nick, what are your thoughts on this one?
We'll have another disagreement, but I am a lot less confident in this one. I'm looking at Gage Young as my one weight. You mentioned not being sure why. Thiago Moises is a dog. I'm a little surprised too. I thought Thiago Moises would get a little more recognition and therefore dollars behind him. But at the same time, I think if I had to, part of my pick on Gage Young is just being feeling like Thiago Moises just isn't it. Like he felt like he was good. He was a prospect that came in the UFC and won 3 or 4 fights in a row, and then lost to Islam. And it's like, yeah, sure, of course, everybody loses to Islam. And kind of since then, like you were saying, he's lost to really good fighters and beat fighters he should. And I can recognize that. But also that I think one of the key things is we just look at the Jared Gordon loss where he got finished in the first round a little, I look at it a little bit more harshly in that, that's a first round finish by a guy that I'm just not that high on. And I think Gage Young, we can look and see that he is a lot less experienced. He's a lot more green, and therefore I'm taking more of a risk by betting on him here, or at least just putting a pick behind him. But in any case, I'm gonna take Gage Young as my one weight here, and therefore use my that's what is that 1, 2, 3 disagreements out of our 4 picks so far. Gage Young to me has a little bit more. It's hard. Gage Young has a little bit more of a KO potential, in my opinion, because he hasn't been finished, and because Thiago Moises has 4 KOs out of his 19 wins. That's a very low percentage of KO wins. To me, the thing that I'd be most fearful of is Thiago Moises by submission for sure. So that could be a possibility if Moises does a club and sub for sure. Not too sure on Moises' wrestling ability, but should that get to the ground, I'm nervous. I'm nervous on Gage Young, but otherwise, I like Gage Young on the feet. I like what he could potentially get done there with a little bit more of a speed advantage, and we'll see. So that said, wow, man, we got 3 disagreements out of 4 picks so far.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't blame you. Yeah, I don't blame you for going for Gage Young either on that last fight, just because, getting knocked out by Jared Gordon. At that point, I would probably start eyeing these new prospects more, but I'm just gonna count that as a one-off right now. If Thiago Moises loses this one, then I'll definitely start evaluating him a little bit differently moving forward.
Yeah, and there's no Gage Young is really young. I guess I have to say the word twice there, but yeah. So even seeing that he's got 6 KOs, no KO losses, KO wins, no KO losses. He's low so early on in his career that's almost still kind of insignificant. But in any case, let's see. We got one more pick for you guys. Let's see if we agree on it or not. This is going to be Mandel Nalo versus Jai Herbert. Lightweight matchup. That'll be the feature fight, I believe, of this card. Jai Herbert, somebody that's been around the UFC for a while, kind of a win-loss fighter. Mandel Nalo's new, coming off of the Contender Series, getting a first-round finish and getting a contract. This is his first UFC contracted fight. Interesting matchup here is both these guys are 155 pounds, but they're pretty big in terms of both of them being 6 feet or taller. Not many of your best, current lightweights are that tall. But either way, I think Nalo's going to get the job done. My pick is on Mandel Nalo. I like the prospect nature, the fact that I feel like he's got more of a KO ability. He's got a Bellator experience. So even though I will say someone that's a newcomer to the UFC, but don't get fooled, he is 36 years old. So he is actually basically the same age as Jai Herbert, just coming in with different experience, basically. But in any case, I like Mandel Nalo. KO or decision in this fight. I really wouldn't expect it to get to the feet, but if it does, Mandel Nalo also has 6 submission wins under his belt. I think either way, he's got a slight advantage over Jai Herbert, and he should win the fight. And before passing it over, I'm trying to see. Oh yeah, so Nalo's minus 180, Jai Herbert's plus 140. So that'll close me and my picks off tonight with a favorite. What do you think, Jose?
Yeah, Nick. So for this one, I'm going for Mandel Nalo as well. Reason being is just that, yeah, he's been looking like a beast. He's not been in the UFC much. I barely go for dudes that like don't have much experience, like my last fight, like I mentioned. But this is one where I have seen quite a bit of him already. Dude is on a fight tear where he's just finishing people right off the right off the first round. And granted, these guys are not in the UFC, so I honestly doubt he's going to finish Jai Herbert in the first round. But I do think he can finish him. We've seen Jai Herbert be finished before, especially to Ilya Taporia. That was crazy. But we've like he like we've seen that he can get knocked out. We've already seen him in the UFC. He's been in the UFC long enough. You see what he has to offer. Mandel Nalo haven't seen much yet, but like in the UFC alone. But I do know that he's coming with heavy hands and a lot of power. And that being said, like when you that combination mixed with someone who already we've seen is not the fast. I mean, don't get me wrong, Jai Herbert has great kickboxing. He has really good kickboxing, but he doesn't have a chin and he can get clipped. And I just think that it's going to be similar to like the Curtis Blades fight and Josh Hokett fight. You're going to have a new young guy that everyone knows has power and high volume strikes, and he's going to press forward. That's what I expect us to see him do against Jai Herbert. So that being said, like I not much else for me to say that he is my one weight. Jai Herbert, he could end up he obviously could end up winning this as well. His experience could take it, and not only that, he is slightly taller. He's 6'1", versus Mandel Nalo being 6 foot exactly. Both are tall guys, regardless. But Jai Herbert also has a 2-inch reach advantage over Nalo, and both guys throw high volume of strikes and absorb quite a bit as well. I haven't seen much of Nelo's grappling, to be honest, but I just know he's going to come in with heavy hands. So I like that Mandel Nalo, but he is my one weight. Not much else for me to say other than I'm just taking the pick on like almost a risky pick on the new up and comer.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. Picking Gage Young, to be honest, new up and comer, but at the same time, like I said, Nalo's not young either. It's just the fact that he's got 17 professional fights under his belt, and it's similar to Jair Prochazka. None of them by decision, win or loss. Like his fights always go to finish, and it's him or his opponent being finished. And in a situation like that, I tend to lean towards a guy who has shown his ability to get those finishes. Jai Herbert is going to decision way too much. In fact, there's not been a finish in a Jai Herbert fight since 2022, and he lost. He hasn't gotten a finish himself since 2021 against Kama Worthy. So, I mean, yeah, That's enough said, I think. Amanda and Nalo, we both agree. That's it. Thanks everybody for listening. That'll conclude our picks. We've gone through our weights. Locks of the week are going to be, we both agreed on Jasmine Sudovicius there for our 6 combined weight picks. Otherwise, underdog for me is going to be Kyler Phillips. Underdog for Jose is going to be Charles Jourdain. As always, we will be back every Monday going forward for the time being. We've got a couple of meh cards coming up before our next numbered card, May 9th. So thanks for listening.